Yeah, so you were saying that you're from California originally,
Southern California, yes.
Southern California, and you
But
have.
I don't live there anymore. I left, we all left California and we live in northwest Georgia near the Blue Ridge Mountains now. Beautiful area.
Oh wow, yes, because you did because I got the timings mixed up originally, and that was completely my fault. You told me that you were on the east, and for some reason, I just assumed that everybody who works in the film industry lives in California. Uh,
Well, that's the wonderful thing about this business is we can live wherever we want as
yeah,
long as there's an airport nearby.
yeah,
And
exactly.
because my career was all over the world, everywhere. I was on almost every continent on this planet with a camera.
Wow,
So doesn't matter where you live, you know, you have to love where you live.
yeah,
And I found my little heaven here.
that's awesome. Yeah, so from Southern California originally, and did you always want to be part of the film industry?
Well, growing up in Southern California, you know, with the opportunities I had in my life, I was being groomed for it from a very young age.
Right,
My high school, I was a year ahead in school. So I was in high school technically when I was 12, really 13. I think most kids here in this country are more like 14 when they enter high school.
right.
So I was very young, and my high school had a 4 year film program
Oh,
that I discovered in my first summer school session before my freshman year. And I fell in love with it. It had a massive impact on me. And it was taught by an English teacher who had just a passion for cinema. So it was his creation. And I bought into it with everything I had. And that was when it happened. And then I went to 4 years of film school in university as well as business school, got degrees in both, and then started my journey professionally. You know, it depends how you define it. You know, when I started, technically, I was 18 when I started working professionally, and I was still in school, of course. But, you know, I think in reality, it's probably more like 20. But I was the head of the camera department in Hollywood at age 20 when all of my team members were probably twice my age
wow.
and way more experienced than me. So, yeah, it's been a lifelong passion.
Wow. So, and was it, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but for most of your career, you've been first AC?
I was only a first AC.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, in that film industry, which is the hub of everything. You can be a career long anything you want and make a good living at it. There are career film loaders. There are career second assistant camera people, first ACs like me. Some cinematographers never worked their way up. They got out of school and they were a cinematographer. So
Right.
you could, you know, and there, of course, all the other departments as well. So you could make of it whatever you want. And I knew my strengths were more business, logistical, managerial, and technical. I was not an artist. I've never been an artist. So being a first AC was perfect for me. And I made it a lifelong vocation, and I was very good at it.
Right. Excellent. So, how did you get to the top so young? Then was that just your experience from like high school, and you started quite young, and you were in. It sounds like you were in a very senior position, very young.
I was, and I probably shouldn't have been. That's the reality. That's the fact. I had no idea what I was doing. I think it was a case of ignorance is bliss. I didn't know any better.
Right.
So I went straight for the top, not knowing I probably should have started at the bottom and worked my way up. And so, you know, it was the school of hard knocks. Film school teaches you a lot, but it doesn't prepare you for a professional career. So it's like in sports. You may have played whatever all your life, but once you turn professional, you're a rookie again. You're starting over.
Yeah.
And thus, I was starting at the beginning of being a first AC, learning on the job and making all the mistakes that I could possibly make. And, you know, learning quickly out of survival.
I guess that's a very effective way to learn, though. I guess you learn very quickly.
You do. And, for me, it was a very quick upwards trajectory, again, out of survival. And I knew what I wanted. And I'm the type of person that once I make a decision on something, I am all in on that decision. It was with the sports I played, with my life decisions, um, some big and some, not as significant. And that career decision I made almost right out of the gate and where I wanted to be. And that's all I could see, not how to get there. I just wanted to be there. And so I call it, I took a take no prisoners attitude.
Yeah.
And I just went for it. And again, being a little green, very green, and a little ignorant, probably very ignorant, I didn't know any better. So I just did it for better or for worse. And, in the end, as I look back, 45 years in motion pictures is a long time. I just retired, and it's been an incredible ride.
Yeah. I mean, your filmography is amazing. There's so many amazing films on there. Um, so when you were in high school, kind of starting
Mhm.
the kind of the film school, were there any inspirations that you had? Any films that like inspired you to go in that direction, or any like filmmakers that
Oh,
inspired you?
absolutely. I mean, I didn't I didn't know what I didn't know back,
Yeah.
when you're that age. You just think, "Oh my gosh, I want to have a career in the movie business and I want to be a motion picture cameraman." Although I didn't call it that at the time. I just wanted to be a cameraman.
Mhm.
I had no idea what that meant. And especially I had no idea that you had to make a living at this. It was just sheer desire at that time. But there were movies certainly that influenced me. And I just wrote a book on my career
Oh,
at the urging of my wife, who wanted me to write all of my stories down and experiences. And in the book, I do talk about this briefly. I don't remember the title of the movie, but it was a children's movie more or less that was about two young people who were from incredibly different backgrounds in exotic locations. And they got together, a boy and a girl, young boy and a girl. And my takeaway from that movie was all the exotic locations. I was mesmerized by it. I was also a big fan of National Geographic, whether it's the magazines, the still photography, the documentaries. I never missed them. I
yeah,
loved them. So, because of that movie and the exotic locations, I was probably 11 years old. And because of my love for National Geographic, I informed my parents when I was 12 years old that I was going to become a photojournalist and documentary filmmaker for National Geographic
excellent.
so I could see all those incredible places.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it. I had no clue what that meant. And I have to say, my parents were very cool about it.
Mhm.
I know they were concerned, but I know they didn't believe I'd actually stick with that plan. And they were partially right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it morphed over the next few years. Because of high school film school, I gave up the photojournalist aspect and wanted to become a motion picture cameraman as I was learning about the structure and how a camera department worked. But then in college, you really start to understand it. And I wanted to be a cinematographer, but that's when I started realizing I'm not built for a cinematographer. I'm not the artist type. And
Right.
I didn't want to be the starving artist type in the world of competition that they are in. So I think I was smart enough at that age to realize use my strengths, not my weaknesses, and go for a career doing what my passion was using those strengths. And that was a first assistant cameraman, technical, managerial, logistical.
Excellent. And is your book published? Is it out now?
No, it's not out yet. I
Ah,
just finished writing it. I have a publisher.
ah,
And the interesting thing about the book, which I think makes it actually pretty interesting, is that it's not about my stories of being on set. It's not about the actors or this movie or that movie. Yes, movies are mentioned, but it's all about what happened around the production.
right.
For example, I was hired to lead a camera crew, lead the camera department on the Monsters of Moscow concert in 1991 when the Soviet Union was still the Soviet Union, but it was falling apart quickly.
Mhm.
And because of President Reagan and Chairman Mikhail Gorbachev, the whole glasnost perestroika that was going on, the openness in the Soviet Union, they allowed for the first time ever a rock and roll concert to happen in Moscow in the Soviet Union because rock and roll was a felony in that country
Right.
until then. And so I got hired to lead the camera department of multiple cameras, multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple countries involved to shoot AC/DC, Metallica, the Black Crowes, all the big bands of the day at an outdoor concert that had 1.6 million people in attendance.
Wow.
1.6 was the estimate officially. And some very bad things happened at that event that I write about. So it's not about shooting the concert, how we shot it, how, what I did to get it on film. It was 16 millimeter film back in those days. But it's about what happened around us. And just to give a quick preview of that is the Soviet government, the communist government, panicked when they saw the sheer numbers of fans going to that show, the 1.6 million. And in that country, you were guilty before you were innocent. So 10,000 Red Army troops came into the crowd and started beating them. Deaths occurred. We witnessed them firsthand. I got threatened by a Red Army officer to turn off our cameras because we were filming it all. And, we're very fortunate not to get so caught up in it that we ended up in a Soviet jail or killed
Wow.
because it was a full on riot. And then the civil war was happening on the streets of Moscow that we were caught in the middle of. And that's what I write about stories like that. I was in Mexico City when an 8.0 earthquake hit and shut our production down. And they estimated 145,000 people were killed in that earthquake.
Whoa.
Now, those are the sad stories. There are
Mm.
some very funny, very happy and upbeat stories as well. Meeting people from these countries and getting to know them. I have friends all over the world because of it. And I have a much deeper global understanding because of these experiences. The book is actually called No Shit, There I Was.
Awesome
And
title.
well, and there's a reason for the title, not just to be vulgar, but there's a long running joke in Hollywood asking, do you know do you know how a fairy tale begins? Once upon a time.
Mm.
Do you know how a movie story begins? No shit, there I was. So that's the title of the book and why it's titled that. And it's a wonderful read, and it'll be out on the market probably in 2026.
Oh, brilliant. I'll look out for it.
Yeah,
That sounds
it's a fun read. A lot of people have and editors have read it and given me feedback, and it's very positive.
And yeah, it sounds right up my street. Actually, that's the kind of stories that I'm interested in as well. So I'll definitely look out for that.
Yeah, it's very entertaining, and it's different because it's not Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with that, it's
I
not
am.
the trivia and what this movie star did or what happened on that set. There might be a little bit of significance and mentions here and there, but it's really about what surrounded the job experience and what we had to deal with, as in Moscow or Mexico City.
Yeah.
And then there are some very great experiences as well that are very funny. And, you can't write this stuff. Yeah. And 45 years, a lot of experiences. And that's why my wife urged me to write it.
I'm glad she did. I'm glad she
Me
did.
too. Me too. It was actually very cathartic to write it, very therapeutic because it made me realize things about myself that I'd either forgotten or never thought about. And it was interesting. It was a great experience.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, so 45 years. So can you remember your like very first job, like
Oh, yeah.
proper
Oh,
paid
yeah.
job? Um,
I remember it all. It was, well, my very first professional job. I was actually a second AC on a Martin Sheen, Alan Arkin, big. It was a good size small movie. That's how I call it. It was an Easter special on television about the wise men. To me, it was the biggest production I'd ever seen, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot from the much older first AC, and after that, I was a first AC for
right.
the rest of my career. And, and my assistants were much older and much more experienced than me. I did a TV show. My very first professional experience was being the camera production assistant slash intern on the TV series MASH
Oh,
at
okay.
20th Century Fox. That camera crew took me under their wing and taught me so much. They were so generous. Then I went on to be the head of the camera teams on TV shows like Airwolf, The A Team, Murder She Wrote, I worked on.
Right.
And then around 4 or 5 years into my career, I made the switch from television to feature films because that's where I wanted to be. And I did some no name films, some very, very low budget, very forgettable productions, but that's what you have to do to move up.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, I did earn my way into the top films that were being produced during my time,
Excellent.
and it was great.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research, and so New Jack City sounded interesting because you were an LA crew member who was allowed to go and work in New York for that film.
Yes, and
Uh,
that's in the book.
or is it? Oh,
Um, yes, I was in the cinematographer's contract, and at that time, New York didn't allow LA people to come and work in their city. It was a very union, very territorial, very protective environment of a city. So LA people weren't allowed to work in New York. And here I'm in the DP's contract, the cinematographer, and he's saying Greg is going to head up the camera department. The New York producers are saying, well, we don't really know about that. We got to talk about this. And the cinematographer's agent prevailed on this, and Warner Brothers grandfathered me into the union in New York, meaning I was an automatic member. I didn't have to pay for it. I didn't have to take the tests. I was just instantly in. And that didn't set well with a lot of the local camera people. And I understand why. I get it.
yeah,
So that was a challenge. That was a challenge of getting my team actually on my side so we can work effectively and efficiently without that weight hanging over my head, which it did hang over my head, most of it. But eventually we became very good friends and they became an incredible team for my department. It was a lot of work to get it there, though.
it sounds like it. Yeah, Yeah. So that was so New Jack City was 1991, I believe.
Yeah, we shot it in 1990. So the
Okay.
year
All right.
before,
It came
came
out
out a
in
year
90.
later. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
exactly.
Cool. Um, and just again, there's so many great films that you've worked on, but one that stood out for me because it's probably, well, it would make definitely one of my top favorite films of all time. And I was a little bit obsessed with it when I was around about 18, 19, and that was Fight Club
Oh yeah,
from 1999. Um, so, were you first AC on Fight Club?
I was the first AC on the second unit of Fight Club. I wasn't the head of the department of the entire movie.
Right,
So I did the second unit, did work with all the actors and with David Fincher, but we shot everything that the first unit, the main unit, did not have time to shoot. So,
got you.
yes, I was a part of that, but not the head of department on that.
Okay,
But it was a great experience. Loved it. I've never seen the movie,
really?
never seen it.
Wow.
It just, it just didn't interest me for my tastes. I've seen pieces of it, and I've certainly seen my work in dailies because we had have to watch dailies to make sure we're getting it right.
Hmm.
But I've never seen the finished movie. Maybe one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably half the movies I've done, I haven't seen.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's just I know what I like.
Yeah.
My tastes are very different than the movies I worked on, with some exceptions or several exceptions. But, like the big Marvel superhero things, that's not my deal.
No.
So, yeah, they were great jobs. They were great for the paycheck and all that. But for me, it wasn't cinematic history by any means. And my grandchildren love the movies.
Right.
But, mine, I like the smaller, more independent, like Focus Features, Sony Classics, those kind of movies, historical, nonfiction. Those are my kind of movies, but there were also movies I couldn't afford to work on, as a regular business because,
Yeah.
it was a different world of filmmaking apart from where I was. So nothing against it. I love them. That's what I'd rather watch. But for a professional career standpoint, I was doing the bigger Hollywood movies, and I would watch the ones I wanted to and ignored the other ones.
Right. Okay. So, out of the films that you've done, which are more up your street then, as a like an audience member?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
Out of all of the films that you've worked on, like the big Hollywood films,
Hmm.
which are the ones that are more up your street into that you
Oh,
would actually watch as an audience
oh,
member?
that's easy. Probably the top of the list is Interstellar.
Yeah.
I thought that was an amazing picture, and I knew it when we were shooting it. And I didn't know how big it really was. That I don't think of it in terms of that. I knew it was a big movie, but that was a very big movie. Uh, the one nonfiction fantasy movie that I really enjoyed that I did was The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. But that's not only is it a good film and very polished filmmaking that I'm proud of, but it was also a world tour for me. We shot in 10 different countries all over the world for almost a year. For a little over 11 months was that production. And just the experiences I enjoyed, uh, they were amazing. And so that's a favorite. Um, the Fighter, I think, is a good one. American Hustle, I liked. Those are my kind of movies.
Yeah.
And Joker, the first
Yes. Yeah.
Joker, I absolutely loved. I didn't think it was going to do anything. I thought it was going to be the biggest bomb in the world.
Really?
Yeah, because it wasn't Batman. It's a
Mm.
social commentary on mental health,
Yeah.
and a very good one at that.
Yeah.
And Todd Phillips, the director, is a very good friend of mine, and we've done all the Hangovers together and other movies. I just thought this was going to be his swing and a miss because he's been so successful. He's such a smart man. But the fact that it wasn't Batman, I thought would miss with audiences. And I knew it was a good film. I could see it. It was a movie that I was very interested in seeing. Excuse me one second.
Yeah.
For some reason, I keep setting the timer off on my Apple Watch and it keeps going off. I don't know why. Um, I knew Joker was going to be a very good film. I just didn't know if it was going to translate with audiences for the lack of the DC Batman franchise. And when we finished shooting at 3 o'clock in the morning on whatever morning day of the week it was, I was standing next to Todd, the director, and we were all congratulating and thanking each other, doing the whole thing we always do at the end of a movie. And I turned to Todd and I said, "So what do you think? Is anybody going to watch this?" And he looked at me and he was serious. He goes, "I doubt it."
Really?
That was the feeling. And boy, we couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah.
We got all, the Oscar nominations, the cinematography got multiple awards, including nominations for Oscar and the ASC, American Society of Cinematographers Award. And it's a wonderful picture. I think it's a very important movie for the cause that it champions of mental health. We did the sequel in 2022, 2023. And I understand why Todd did what he did. He made it into a musical. He did not want to make Joker 2. He wanted the Joker story to be a standalone. And I admire the risk he took. And that's the one that didn't really translate with audiences, unfortunately. It's a good film, it's entertaining. But for whatever reasons, it didn't work.
That's a shame. I remember going to see the first one at the cinema with my friend, and we were both kind of blown away with it at the time. We both
Yeah.
loved it, and it's got such a high rating on IMDb, which is kind of one of the things that I kind of look at when I'm going to watch a film. And it's rare that you get films that are over 8. And I'm sure Joker is like 8.2 or something like that. Or at least it was at one point.
Mhm.
It was such a good film. And another film that you mentioned, which I think is probably a lot of people's favorite comedies, is The Hangover.
Yeah, I like that movie.
I loved The Hangover. I thought it was great.
Well, that was Todd Phillips' brilliance again, because it really is a whodunit
Yeah,
mystery, you know, disguised as a comedy. And it was just so fresh and so different and so unique. And it's a great film. It's really entertaining, you know? And yeah, I agree with you.
I thought it was one of those films where kind of everything just seemed to work. It was like the script was great, it looked great, the performances were great, and you don't get those films very often.
No, you don't. Lightning strikes every now and then. And with Todd, he's had lightning strikes several times with the movies he does, to his credit. And Larry Sher, the cinematographer, is just top notch. His photography is challenging, it's aggressive, it's bold, and it fits the story. The everything that we do photographically fits and supports the story. And that's what the challenge is. If you have an ugly story, you don't want it to be beautifully photographed. It doesn't fit, it doesn't go with it.
Yeah,
You need to photograph a movie that supports the story. And I feel like it was mission accomplished on all of those.
it really was. It really was. Yeah. So that was sorry, The Hangover 2009. It's such a time flies, and I always use the dates of films to kind of anchor like what I was doing at that time. And
Tell me about it.
yeah, well, even more for you, right? Because you were working on these things, so you can,
Yeah.
you know, the probably like significant moments in your life were happening on certain films, and
It's sad to admit that all of my family's big life moments, I have to think about what movie I was on when my daughters were born, when they graduated school, you know,
yeah,
when they got married,
yeah,
when my grandchildren were born. Oh, yeah, Maddie was born when I was doing uh, Joker Folie à Deux. So that makes her how old? She's 3 years old now. That's how my process is. And
yeah,
that's not good. It should be the other way around.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. So you might have touched on some of these already, but I just wondered if you had, out of all of the films that you've done, like a favorite moment or like something that you're most proud of.
Well, my proudest moment of my career wasn't on a film.
Okay.
There's a organization, kind of a fraternity of cameramen globally called the Society of Operating Cameramen, which I've been a member of since 1990. It's invitation only. It's based on your work, your resume, your character, your everything, to be invited to join this prestigious group. And in 2016, they honored me with a Lifetime Achievement Award at a black tie ceremony at Paramount Pictures.
Oh, amazing.
And that was probably a big moment in my life, other than my children and my marriage and, the real life things, of course. I never will detract from those. But professionally, that was a big moment and one I'll never forget. And, I could see the award on my shelf here at home. And it reminds me of why I did all the sacrifice, why my family put up with all the sacrifice when I missed important dates because I was on location. When they had to travel so far to be with me, pull the kids out of school, school them abroad. Everything we did to support that career to me was summed up in that honor that night. And it was magical. It's especially because it's your colleagues and your peers who voted to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
I never would have expected it. I never thought about it. I never dreamt about it. But when I got the phone call that I was being honored, it seemed like the next 4 months took forever to get to that night. And it was wonderful.
oh, that's amazing. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And, but movie wise, I think, to answer your question that way, there are different ones for different reasons. Interstellar was technically challenging. It was probably the hardest movie I ever photographed or ever worked on. It was just difficult because of the nature of the filmmaking. It was difficult shooting in Iceland on a glacier because of nature's forces going against the filmmaking process. But you embrace that, you endure it, and you make it work. That's what we do. We always make it work. I was in the middle of a desert in 130 degrees in the Middle East shooting Star Trek, one of the Star Trek movies, Beyond. And, people were dropping like flies with heat stroke and heat exhaustion, dehydration. Not one member of the camera team went down because that's what we do. We keep pushing forward. We overcome, we conquer, we figure it out. And we drank a lot of bottles of water every day. But, you know, that's the reality of the job. You're in every kind of climate, every kind of challenging situation. And again, I'm not trying to self-promote my upcoming book. That's not my purpose. But in it, I describe all of that because it's what happens around the movie that affects how you do on the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
When you have a military coup going on right next to you while you're trying to shoot, it doesn't go well.
no,
Nothing is going to end well. When you have an 8.0 earthquake that devastates an entire metropolis with thousands of dead, that isn't going to fare well. And in those times, you realize the movie doesn't even matter. It's about getting everybody safe, getting everybody home. That's what you think about. Um, I think some of my favorite moments were, I think I've been to 6 communist countries and spent time there because we're filming there, understanding the people, understanding what communism is. And this isn't a political commentary. I won't go down that road. It's not, it's really not relevant to the discussion. But to say that you realize there is good in people all over this world, despite their faith, culture, political affiliations, uh, points of view. I was in Havana, Cuba. The government was scared to death of us shooting Fate of the Furious, the 8th installment of Fast and Furious. It was a big deal for us to even go there because of the relations between Cuba and the United States. And once we got there, there was a lot of paranoia among the government officials with us being Americans bringing all of this technology into the country that they viewed as threatening. All of our wireless
Right.
systems, spy capabilities and
Got you.
whatever they were afraid of, which in no way was ever the case. But we had local Havana-based Cubans working with us on the movie, and then just the normal citizens that I met being there, just the most incredibly wonderful, warm, and welcoming people. And I saw that in China. I saw that in Vietnam. Saw that in other socialist nations, that a lot of that the American government could see as threatening.
Mm.
The governments are one thing and the people are a totally separate thing. And that's what shaped my global views on the world, that there's good in people everywhere. And a lot of them became friends.
Mm.
And I still stay in touch with several of them.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of the job, is not only are you doing what your passion is, what you were meant to do, what you want to be doing as a career and vocation, but you get these experiences that there's no way in the world you would otherwise have. Going to places and seeing things, good, bad, or indifferent, that shape your character, shape one's character, certainly shaped mine. And, it creates a deeper understanding of the world around you. And I think that's incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think you may have already answered my next question, which was what was one of the most challenging um, experiences, and I anticipated you mentioning Interstellar. I think I may have read it or seen it in another video where you mentioned that it was such a shallow depth of field that it was just incredibly difficult film to shoot.
Yeah, the style of filmmaking became kind of common practice to have incredibly shallow depth and not rehearse and just to shoot improv. That's how we did Joker, both of the Jokers. It was all improv with
Right.
incredibly shallow depth. I had become, because of movies like Interstellar, I had become very proficient in being able to do that. Not everybody can, and they don't have the self confidence or the experience to be able to handle that effectively. For me, Interstellar, which was film, which means I'm pulling focus by eye, not off a monitor, not with any references. You're judging space, you're judging air. It's a very intangible craft. And when you're shooting 65 millimeter negative film, IMAX, and Panavision anamorphic 35 millimeter format, with no depth of field, there's no margin for error. And yeah, I made mistakes here and there where I had to ask for a second chance at it. that just goes with the territory. And you can't be afraid of making mistakes, because if you're afraid of it, then you're going to tighten up, stop thinking, stop reacting, and you're so tense and nervous, you stop performing. So I never worried about making an error, because we focus pullers all know it comes with the territory. It's going to happen. It's just, how do you manage that? How do you overcome it? And it becomes a mental game. Once you get it in your head that you're struggling, the easiest shot in the world that would normally be easy for you becomes an uphill battle, and just something that's so difficult to overcome. I've been there. When I was younger, I've experienced it all. I've made every mistake you can possibly make along the way. But for Interstellar, I knew there would be challenging shots, and there was no lack of that. I also knew that I had a director in Christopher Nolan that expected your A game and nothing left or nothing less. And that if you started making mistakes and just constantly messing up, you were going to get the full wrath from him. And that's something I didn't need in my life.
Mm.
So, if I buzzed a shot, if I missed a little moment of a shot, I would immediately at cut turn to Chris and Hoyta, the cinematographer, and say, hey, I missed this moment. If it's really important to you, we should do it again. If it's not that important to you, well, Chris, you make that decision. But it's something we can do perfectly. And, it went very well, but it was mentally draining every single day, going home just exhausted. And then again, Iceland was a small portion of the movie, but it was the most difficult portion, shooting on the glacier, the frozen planet with the water,
Yeah.
the wave, and where Matt Damon, where his, I don't know what you call it, the capsule that he lived in,
Oh,
was
yes.
on a glacier in isolated Iceland, and the weather was very challenging. And you're just trying to keep the gear working in the cold and in the wet and the adverse conditions, with Christopher Nolan all over you all the time.
Right.
So, you have to have fortitude. You have to have courage. You know, uh, I had the confidence to do it, not overly confident. Humility goes a very long ways. But the ability to admit you made a mistake when you make that mistake, I think is very, very important for anybody to do in whatever job or life's event, whatever it applies to. Don't hide it. The truth will come out, and then it's 1,000 times worse. So, but I have to say, Interstellar went incredibly well, as challenging as it was. And in the movie, you see little bits of, focus, because it was so shallow that, there are moments that I know I couldn't have done any better than I did. And then you have to accept that and move on and try to improve it the next time. And hopefully you do. Or maybe it's just so impossibly difficult that that's just what it is. It's hard for me to admit, but sometimes that was the case.
I have heard that the focus puller's job is one of the hardest jobs on a film crew, especially shooting with film. So when you are shooting with film,
I've heard that too.
you've experienced it. When you are shooting with film and you're pulling focus, what are you actually looking at? Are you able to see through the viewfinder of the camera, or are you
No,
just
no.
looking at where the people are in
I'm
relation to the camera?
standing I'm standing next to the camera, or in a position, if I'm using, later we had wireless remote focus systems and equipment we used. But back in the early days, you would be physically a part of the camera with your hand on a follow focus that turned the lens barrel focus ring. And you're standing, I would always place myself next to the film plane, So I would stand sideways, looking this way. My peripheral vision, the film plane is here. Then I'm looking at literally the distance to the subject, most likely the actor's eyes. And as the camera's moving and the actor is moving, it's up to the focus puller to translate those distant changes, turning the lens appropriately, keeping the shot in focus. Otherwise, it would go soft immediately, right? And that's not acceptable. You can't have that in movies where people are paying to see the movie. It has to be perfect. Although you do see out of focus shots in movies, it's not the goal for any of us as focus pullers to do. It is a difficult job. You're judging air and space. It's very intangible. And you're making story decisions in real time of where to play the focus, where to direct the audience's attention. Is it the person speaking? Is it the person listening? What is the goal story wise of that shot? And, through focus among numerous other storytelling apparati, it was our job as a focus puller, as focus pullers, to tell the story using selective focus, where to direct the audience's attention.
And I guess when you're shooting on film, you only really know the next day
That's
what
right.
it actually looks like.
That's right. I called it guess and pray.
Yeah.
But no, you get that sixth sense developed that for me, I'll speak personally for myself, and I know there are many of us that you usually knew if you got it or if you didn't, or if there is a brief moment in the middle of a long take that you missed, and you catalog all that in your head as you're going along so you could report it as when you cut. Hey, the shot was great. That moment I may have missed. I think I did. And, again, it's up to the director. Is it important enough to do another take? Or is it just the part of the scene where they're ramping up into the important portion of the take?
Oh, yeah.
Or not, because we would overshoot lead-ins and lead outs of where the shot goes live. That's how we called it. The shot is live during this portion, but we're shooting the beginning and the end as well to give the actor enough lead in and ramp up to get into the performance. So maybe if I blew a portion of a take, maybe it was in the not live portion of the take, if you will.
Yeah.
But, it was always a responsibility to let them know so there were no surprises. Because here's the deal, you're in overtime. You're paying the crew a lot of overtime in cash, in payroll for you to be making mistakes. Maybe it's that actor's last day on the movie and you think you blew focus on him or her. Maybe you're leaving that location permanently and they're going to tear down the set the next day forever. It's gone forever. That's what our responsibility as filmmakers is, to get the shot or shots right, because there may not be a chance to go back and redo it. It's too expensive or logistically impossible. So that was the pressure that we had to take upon ourselves to do it right, first of all. And if there was a mistake ever, to let them know immediately so we could fix it then and there if needed.
Oh, yeah. And has focus pulling become easier with the switch to digital, or is it still the same?
I'm asked that a lot actually. And in my opinion, it's different. It's not easier. It's not harder. It's different. And the reason why, digital, first of all, you don't have the film's grain to hide behind, where you could get a little bit of off, slightly off, and you would never know it because of the grain of the film. That's a great curtain to disguise minute mistakes. Digital, you don't have that luxury. It's either in or it's out. And the advantage, though, is that you're watching it on a monitor. I would pull focus off of a monitor that was set so I could see critical focus, whether it's the brightness, the color, the contrast. I always pulled focus in black and white because the color could disguise some minute differences, especially when you're shooting wide open, shallow depth. So I always had a contrasty black and white image on my focus monitor. Uh, Having said that, I loved it because I could see exactly what I was doing in real time. I would see if I made a mistake in real time, because there it is. I could see it. It's not waiting the next day for dailies. Uh, I could see when we got the shot, and I would have the confidence going home that night that there were no problems. That I'm happy to say was 98, 99% of the time. Uh, so it's different. I think film focus was easier for the focus, but harder because you couldn't see what you were doing. You were judging air. Digital was easier because you could see what you were doing. And at the same time, it was difficult for the resolution and sharpness on forgiveness. So,
Got you.
it was different. It took digital and film are different disciplines and focus pulling, completely different.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I guess my last official question was, looking back on your uh, career, do you feel like you've achieved everything that you set out to, or did things pan out kind of differently than what you were expecting?
I think they worked out the way I had hoped. I wanted to do the big Hollywood movies since I was 12 years old. That's when I made that decision. That was my goal. I did 45 years of big Hollywood movies. And I had the blessing of that career to work with incredible people, whether they were my camera team, other crew members, directors, producers, actors. I was always surrounded by really great people, and I never took that for granted. So I feel like I had a very blessed career and I was very fortunate to have it.
It sounds amazing. Yeah, like so many amazing films that you've worked on. I'll put a link to your IMDb profile with this video, so
Thank you.
whoever watches it can see just how many amazing films that you did work on over 45 years. So I've taken up almost an hour of your time. So thank you so much for
Thank you, Jeff.
it's been. I just love hearing the kind of the behind the scenes stories. So and I know that other people do as well. So um, I'm sure other people will like listening to this, and also hopefully buy your book when it's out.
Yep.
Uh,
I think it'll be a fun read.
yeah,
It's not going to be a hard read. It's a quick read. So it'll be entertaining. And, you know, I think fellow filmmakers will realize that we all go through similar things. It's not just, them,
yeah,
that we all have the same fears, the same victories, the same goals, and the same wants in many ways. One thing I do want to mention very quickly
yeah, of course.
is I created a filmmaking educational program that has become very, very popular called Focus on Camera.
Yes, I've
And
seen the website.
yeah, and in 2025, I taught numerous classes in 3 different countries, including London, and it was a big success. Now we're rebuilding it, revamping it, and we're going to relaunch it bigger, better than ever in 2026. So please keep a lookout for it.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that was actually meant to be my last prepared question. My last prepared question was, "What are you up to now?" Um, so yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And I'll put a link to the website with this video as well. So if
Yeah, right now the website is the old website. I
okay,
really should have my marketing team just put under construction or something. I think I will, because it's going to be completely revamped. The program is much more expanded with better offerings, priced better for everybody. It's really great because it's the next generation that'll carry our industry forward during all this time of change. Our industry is vastly changing right now
yeah,
with AI, with the way movies are being produced and watched, with vertical production and streaming. So, if we don't adapt properly, it's going to leave everybody behind. And that's the goal of Focus on Camera, is to get everybody into the current market to understand what their goals should be, regardless of what you want to do with your career. Uh, the other aspect that I think makes it very unique is we teach the business side of filmmaking, the business side of being a freelance motion picture worker. What does that mean? Because I remember when I graduated film school, that was the big, oh my God, what now? I know how to, I think I know how to do my job a little bit, but how do I manage a career? How do I manage finances? How do I manage taxes? There's all these fears that we all have trying to have a full time, successful career doing the craft we love.
yeah.
And that is very neglected in the education and training side of things in our industry. And that's where focus on camera becomes very important.
And are you the main instructor on this, or
Well,
other
I'm,
people?
I'm the creator, I'm the president of the program and the creator of the program. I'm the founder. There's a staff, we have different instructors, but it's all under the focus on camera umbrella
Got you.
to be at the standard level that the program needs to be at.
That's excellent.
It's good. It's very good. So look for us in spring of 2026. We'll be back.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll link to the website and everything, so anyone who's interested can check it out.
Thank you.